I come off the roster, and Anthony Stolarz is coming back in to start tonight against the Vegas in the Mitch Marner return game. I mean, guy hasn't played in how long? We're just going to throw him right in there against a hungry Vegas team. Man, bold call from Berube tonight, but I'm not sure I'm on board with it.
You're right. When you look at this game specifically, right, like the whole Marner hoopla, but the fact that, like, this is a big game reaching the standings,
Huge.
right?
Huge, especially like the ultimate Marner revenge is losing to the Bruins last night, giving them a couple extra points and keeping them ahead of the Leafs, and now also beating the Leafs and putting them to the sword a little bit and keeping them behind the eight ball when it comes to the playoff conversation. It's huge, and this whole road trip, like thinking through the whole Stolarz thing, it's. Okay, you got Vegas tonight, not an easy one, even though they're on the second half of a back-to-back. Sunday, Nathan McKinnon's in town with Cale Makar, so that's going to be a tough spot to put a guy, a cold goalie into. And then Tuesday, the red-hot Buffalo Sabres. So, like, there's no easy spots to get Anthony Stolarz in. I legitimately thought he was going to get a game in the A, at least a game in the A before throwing him back into an NHL rink. But I guess they feel good enough about it.
Yeah, I thought he was going to play on some type of conditioning stint in the Marlies as well. Like, that was what I was expecting. And then you hear oh, no, he's just going there for extra practice. I'm like, what the hell? Like, he's not getting enough practice with the Leafs. Like, they don't have guys shooting on this guy every day. It was strange to me. Riccio obviously brought up here, like, the Marner game coming into town here tonight. We saw the boos when they played in Vegas. I know there was a big article that was released yesterday, and it stirred up a lot of emotions. We spent about 20 minutes off the top of today's show rehashing that. What are you expecting tonight's atmosphere to be like in the arena, and one that in particular kind of gets a rap for being pretty quiet and can sit on their hands at times?
It's going to be charged. Like, there's no way around it. I know that Leaf fans feel scorned by Marner, and they've made him the scapegoat of everything that's gone on here the last few years. And for good reason. I mean, Marner has taken a lot of this on himself, whether he likes to hear that or not. He is a part of the problem. And there's going to be, like, a mob mentality that comes upon this as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some crazy videos, people trying to go viral outside of Scotiabank Arena tonight, maybe burning a Marner jersey or something like that, whatever. That's 2026. I think that's more about people trying to get views on TikTok or whatever than it is about how they actually feel about Mitch Marner. But in the rink, my hope is, okay, that, you treat Marner as you want to. I'm not going to tell any fan how to go about it tonight, but I imagine there's going to be a lot of boos every time he touches the puck. You should still give him a little bit of a cheer during that video tribute. Like, the guy is a top 10 scorer in Leaf history, and that's still got to be something that you respect, especially for somebody as a hometown kid. To me, the story is more about how this relationship went wrong rather than Marner, the player, because he was a good player. And yeah, his playoff failures are masking how we feel about him, but he did have over 100 points last year. Still respect what this guy did on the ice and realize that he is the face of a failed era. He's the face of the failed Shanna plan, right? That's the way I look at this. Yeah, sure, Marner takes some of the blame, but to me, the blame goes on management. And reading through that piece by Elliot Friedman, incredible work by Friedge, as usual.
Yep.
The biggest thing that stood out to me is talking to Matthews 2 years before he was out from free agency, realizing, he's good to go. He's staying a Maple Leaf. And then when you had that same conversation with Marner, he was not quite as committal. So to not treat that moment as a moment where you're like, okay, we may have a decision to make here. We may have to get ahead of this if he's non-committal on his future. Oh, we're still going to bet on talent. We're still going to hope that this changes. Things change in the playoffs, that maybe the mix isn't right. No, we're going to keep believing. This is managerial malpractice. This is why the Dubas and Shanaplan era failed. It's because they just kept banging their head against the wall, hoping for a different result, and they never really got it. And there was a ton of reports about Dubas trying to get a trade done and Shanahan blocking it. But that just, to me, confirms that Brendan Shanahan I know he's out of a job now, so he did wear the blame on where this has all ended up. But people are booing Mitch Marner tonight, knowing that deep down there's some blame that should be landing on Brendan Shanahan's doorstep as well.
That's fair and it's warranted, but I'll be honest, like respect is not a word I think of when I think of Mitch Marner. I'll just be frank with it. I think he ran away from his issues. He could have been everything to this market in this city and didn't want the smoke. And I think some guys can handle it, some guys can't. And plain and simple, good on him to go to Vegas. And I just think the way he handled the media specifically gave a souring taste to the fan base and everybody around the team. And it led to his demise. Would you agree? He's God. Exactly.
Yeah. We're gods. Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know who was giving Mitch Marner PR advice. He probably wasn't taking their advice given the way that he was answering the media, but that was the thing that I think gets people, it got me charged. It gets people charged the most is Marner wore like this, this mask, like you never felt like Marner was being authentic. You grew up a Leaf fan. It means a lot to you to wear the blue and white. That's what you said, and that's what we feel. Or that's what you said, but we don't feel it. Is I think the way a lot of Leafs fans felt about Marner. And then there became a point where he started to feel like he was playing the victim card when it's just like, yeah, of course, there's a few people in the fan base. There are, especially in the Twitter social media world, where people are on their anonymous, Twitter accounts and just saying the most heinous shit you could possibly say to another human and doing stupid things like letting out his address under a Luke Fox tweet. These are things that should never happen, but we also understand it's sort of part of the sports world these days to a certain extent. It's unfortunate that it is that way, but don't act like this isn't a thing. I mean, Joe Burrow's getting his house broken into, and there's all kinds of things that happen across the sports world where, yeah, you're in the public figure, you're in the public eye, you're making 11 sheets a year. There's going to be some things you have to deal with. That's part of the gig. And I feel like he just, his part in playing the victim card as much as he did never sat well with Leafs fans, because the majority of the fan base for a long time just wanted to see a hometown kid bring some hometown glory to a team that hasn't had any of it.
Yeah, I think that's part of it for me as well. Like, you talk about why he became the scapegoat. I think a lot is he was the guy here, and the fan base gave him everything, and then he turned on them. He would go back and forth at them. He would take digs at them and say stuff about them, and then it was like, well, what the hell are we doing? And I mean, obviously as well, you guys are bringing up the PR stuff. Chris Johnson tweeted out the quote from him this morning. He says, I don't want to look back anymore. I don't want to look in the past. I mean, this comes out 12 hours after Friedman releases an article that says he held a 10-year grudge about not getting entry-level bonuses. Like, I mean, just the timing is impeccable on this. I mean, in terms of the legacy of him here, Reach, one of the things I was reading yesterday, and it's very different among the fan base about how they view the guy, because I think a lot of people view him the same way you just kind of brought up in terms of he was a great player. He did put up 100 points once, but he did put up 100 points here in Toronto, and for a long time he was a great Maple Leaf. The exit was sour. It was not really, it's not well received by people here. Do you think that at any point in the future there can be any type of reconciliation between player, camp, city, fan base, organization, all the way around to kind of have everyone look back and be like, well, that didn't go the way we wanted it to. Let's come back together and sing Kumbaya and hold hands.
The fan base forgave, the Raptors fan base forgave, this market forgave Vince Carter. And that was something I never thought I would see, because, if you lived through it, you saw Vince Carter quit on the Raptors, quit on the organization, quit on that fan base. And that was something I never thought he would come back from. And he did. Matt Sundin, the way that whole thing played out, honestly, I always sided with Mats on that one, like not wanting to get traded. Like, you've been a Maple Leaf for life and they're trying to force you out here. That one sat differently with me than it did for a lot of fans. But obviously, those wounds healed as well. I don't think these will ever heal with Marner. There wasn't enough playoff success. So as much as his individual stats stick out, I think people will at some point look back on his Leafs career and say, yeah, he was a good Maple Leaf, but there's no reason to have him back and honor him in any kind of a way. Like there's no way, he would have projected if he continued as a Maple Leaf to probably be in the rafters at some point, especially if he signed another contract and ended up as one of the top 3 scorers in Leaf history. Like how do you look past that? Even if there isn't playoff success, it would be hard to, but because of the way that this is all played out, I don't see Marner ever fully coming back from that, even though we have seen some incredible athletes come back from some pretty sour endings in the past.
It's really fascinating to me, the whole debate about retiring his jersey. In fact, I was at Beer League Hockey a couple weeks ago, post-game shower with the boys in a pop, and we're discussing that very topic in the shower. Like, do you think he'll have his number retired one day? And it was split, man. There was probably 6 or 7 of us in there, and it was split. And I do feel like it's a present-day thing where we're living in the moment and people are pissed off. I lived the Carter era reach. He was my favorite athlete growing up. I loved him and was so royally pissed when he gave up on the team. He stopped dunking. He was such a pile of shit. And after time, I think like time heals all wounds. Do you feel there's
it helps that they want to chip too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But do you think time heals all wounds from that respect? Like you think down the road, people are like, he did a lot of great things for this team, or I know you sort of just answered it too, but.
Yeah, no way. And I think like if the Leafs do have, I don't know, some kind of success, it doesn't even look like they'll make the playoffs this year, but I don't know where this era is going to go. Part of the issue here is right now, given where they sit, the lack of assets that they have to make this team better, the lack of a future as far as, prospects coming up. All due respect to Will Villeneuve with the Marlies and some of these guys that may play a role for this team in the future. It's just, you're kind of looking at this. It's like, this is what it's like now. And how do we get out of this? Like, we don't have a first round pick until 2028, where is this going? And I get that there is sort of an existential crisis happening at the same time as all of this is playing out, because this Matthews era of the Leafs feels like it's never going to bear the fruit that we thought it might, right? Even if winning a cup is, it's the hardest thing to do in sports is win a Stanley Cup, but to not even get past the second round, I mean, you're not even beating what the Washington Capitals did for all those years. So it's the fact that they've underachieved as much as they had. Like Gilmore never won a cup. Clark never won. Sundin never won it. These guys never won a cup, but you felt like they wore their heart on their sleeves. They gave everything that they could. They bled blue and white, and you accepted that, even though they did come up short. With this group, there's a different feel about it, especially with Marner. And I just don't know, because of that lack of playoff success, I don't know if that stink is ever going to wear off fully for the fan base.
I mean, playoff success aside as well, I would just say the other thing too with those guys is like they showed how much they loved the city. Vince Carter aside, I think it's a little bit of a different situation. When I'm talking about, the Gilmores and Tuckers and Domies and all these guys, like that's why they're revered here. Not only was it how they played, it's the love they showed back towards the city. He didn't show the same love. He did not show the same affection. And on his way, he kicked dirt on them on his way out as well. And I think that will hold weight with people for a long time.
The vibe that he was thinking about Vegas a year ahead of time is just, it's something
crazy.
He's going to have a really hard time.
His dad was buying houses like his dad house shopping in January is going to stick with me for a long time. I fucking remember that one.
Paul Marner has a big role
in all this
too, if we're honest about it.
Yes, he does. Yeah. But after the game against Detroit, the fact that the Atlantic Division, the top 3 spots there, are kind of getting away from them. Nick and I talked about it before you came on a little bit, but taking a zoom out from just the Marner game tonight and the fact that he's here in town and how much that means to the Maple Leafs. How important are you? How important is this game, and how much emphasis are you putting on a win here tonight in terms of standings? I mean, Buffalo's winning. Boston is winning. Everyone around you is picking up points. You got an opportunity over this week where you kicked away a couple you could have or should have had, and other teams didn't kind of gain that ground, but they're back. They're winning they're winning games. They're picking up points. Like, how important is this one for you tonight, Reach, in terms of actually gaining ground in the standings?
Yeah, it's a massive one, right? Like, those top 3 spots in the Atlantic, they're too far gone. This team's got 32 games remaining. Where have we seen that this team can play consistent enough hockey that they're going to get themselves 20 wins in these final 32? Like, you got to go 20-12 or some combination of getting 40-ish points to get to this bar of 97. And maybe it doesn't end up that high, but it's projecting that way right now. Buffalo's not going to stay this hot forever. They're going to come back down to earth. They'll probably have a 10-game stretch where they go 500, but you're still catching them. And we know how hard it is to catch teams when the National Hockey League is giving out 3-point nights basically every single night. So tonight, a team on the second half of – take away the storylines of tonight's game. This is a team coming into your barn on the second half of a back-to-back. You cannot lose. You just can't. You can't afford to lose where the Leafs are in the standings. You think about the 7 games remaining going into the Olympic break. Like, do they need 5 wins? 4-2-1? Yeah. Something to that effect going into the Olympic. Like, you don't have enough runway to be below 500 in these next 7 games, especially when the trade deadline is coming short after they come back from the Olympic break, and you've got decisions to make on guys like Scott Laughton and Bobby McMahon. I mean, this team, they need, if they're going to stay with this and I know they're probably not going to punt on the season no matter what, but if you don't position yourself well enough through these next 7 games, you have to have a serious look at moving on from some of your pending unrestricted free agents, because you don't have much of a future and this team isn't worth betting on.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.